There is a version of you that only comes out when someone you love goes quiet. A delayed text, a shift in tone. Sometimes it's nothing you could even explain to another person. Just a feeling, drop in temperature nobody else would notice. But you notice, and in that moment, something ancient wakes up inside you. A silent alarm. Did I say something wrong? Are they pulling away? Am I too much? If that sounds familiar, stay with me, because what I'm about to describe isn't a personality flaw. It's a wiring pattern, and today I'm walking you through 5 signs that reveal whether it's quietly running your life. It starts with a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby, who in the 1950s made a claim that scandalized his profession. He said a child's bond with their caregiver wasn't just emotional comfort, it was a biological survival system, as fundamental as hunger. A few years later, a researcher named Mary Ainsworth tested this idea with an experiment called the strange situation. She'd bring a toddler and caregiver into a room, briefly remove the caregiver, then bring them back. Most children were upset, then calmed quickly once reunited. But a smaller group did something different. When the caregiver returned, they couldn't settle. They clung, cried, sometimes even pushed the caregiver away in what looked like anger, unable to trust that safety had actually come back. In 1987, 2 researchers, Cindy Hazan and Philip Shaver, asked a bold question. What if these same patterns exist in adult romantic love? They ran a study published in a major newspaper questionnaire, and the results matched almost exactly. Roughly 1 in 5 adults showed this same anxious pattern, not as toddlers, but as fully grown people falling in love. Same nervous system, just dressed differently. That's sign number 1. Hyper-vigilance to disconnection. If you can detect someone's mood shift before they've said a word, a shorter reply, a missing exclamation point, a pause a second too long, that's not intuition. It's a nervous system trained early to scan for danger, because at some point, disconnection actually was dangerous. Researchers who study this call it an internal working model, a template for relationships built before you could even form long-term memories. And it doesn't update just because you grew up. Brain imaging studies on attachment have found that perceived rejection activates the same regions as physical pain. Not similar to pain, the same circuitry. So when you feel a text go unanswered like a small crisis, your brain isn't exaggerating, it's registering it the way it would register a physical wound. Sign number 2. You seek reassurance, but it never actually lands. Someone with this pattern might ask, "Do you still love me?" Hear yes, and feel relief for an hour before the fear creeps back. Researchers call this protest behavior, a term Bowlby used to describe what infants do when a caregiver leaves: cry, cling, escalate. Adults do a quieter version, repeated check-ins, reading a message 6 times for hidden meaning. The unsettling part is that this isn't about disbelieving the answer. It's that the alarm system was never built to fully accept safety, because early on, safety was inconsistent. And here's a fact that surprises most people. Studies on cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, show that anxiously attached individuals have elevated cortisol responses even during minor relationship conflicts. Physically, their body is bracing for loss during an argument that a securely attached person would barely register. Sign number 3, and this is where it gets uncomfortable. You mistake anxiety for chemistry. Psychologist Amir Levine, who co-authored one of the most cited modern books on attachment theory, points to something he calls misattribution of arousal. When your body is in a heightened state, stress, fear, longing, your brain often interprets that intensity as passion. That's why relationships that feel the most unstable, hot and cold, unpredictable, can feel like the most magnetic ones. Not because they're healthier, because your nervous system is more activated. Calm, consistent love can feel boring to someone wired this way, not because it's lacking, but because the body has learned to associate love with vigilance, not peace. Sign number 4. You lose yourself in relationships. You'll notice this in small decisions. Canceling plans you actually wanted, adjusting opinions, absorbing moods that aren't yours. Attachment researchers describe this as a hyperactivation strategy. The anxious system's solution to fear of abandonment is to increase closeness at almost any cost, sometimes at the cost of your own identity. It's not weakness. It's a strategy that once worked when staying closely attuned to a caregiver's needs may have been the safest option available to a small child with no other choice. And sign number 5. The one people find hardest to hear. You often pick partners who confirm the fear rather than partners who could heal it. This is sometimes called repetition compulsion, a term that traces back to Freud, later reframed by attachment researchers as the mind unconsciously recreating familiar emotional conditions, even painful ones, because familiar feels safer than unknown. Someone consistently warm and available can feel, ironically, less compelling because there's no fear to manage and the anxious system doesn't quite know what to do with that kind of quiet. Attachment researcher Mary Main found something hopeful in the data. Attachment style isn't a life sentence. She called it earned secure attachment. People who, through awareness or the right relationship, actually rewire the pattern over time. It just takes longer than falling into old habits because those habits were built first. So if you saw yourself in any of this, you're not broken and you don't love too much. Your system just adapted to keep you safe the only way it knew how. Understanding that isn't the end of the story. It's usually where the real one begins.